let's have a chat, shall we, of what it looks like to launch a program in your business from your feminine operating system, as I like to call it, rather than the traditional way of doing business. Poured myself a glass of kombucha, and I wanted to share a funny story with you, and then also 3 things that I've learned about how to use the natural design of my feminine power in business rather than using the wrong fuel of trying to do it like the men. All right, so here's the backstory. I launched my Dark Feminine program earlier this year. It was a great success. It was amazing. And I'd like to do it again. These times that are happening right now are so intense. And some friends and I, we believe that when life gets more and more intense, that's the Dark Feminine drawing us nice and close, because she's trying to get our attention because she wants us to step into more of our power. So all that to say, I'm excited to bring my Dark Feminine program out into the world again, and so this plan started forming. I was going to first create a quiz on the Dark Feminine, which I released probably about 6 weeks ago at darkfeminine.com. It was super fun, people seem to love it. And then secondarily, in order to get the work out into the world, I had this idea. I wanted to create a video series so that women could get to know the Dark Feminine, because obviously it's a highly unusual topic and there's a lot of education that needs to go along with it. So it's not a simple launch, obviously. Like, I wanted women leaders to have an experience of the Dark Feminine so that they could decide if they'd like to do deeper work with her. So the vision that I had was to create a video series where women could binge watch learning about the Dark Feminine on their own time, have an experience, and see if they felt the call. And it felt like it was going to be a little bit like, binge watching on Netflix. And so I had this idea months ago, months and months and months ago. And so I've been tending to it and making plans and moving in that direction. And it's just taken its sweet old time. It's been a wild ride. So ideally, I would already be in the Dark Feminine program right now. Like, the launch would be behind me, but unfortunately, that's not what happened. And this is part of doing business differently. If you don't know my story, I pulled the plug on my fancy pants business coach business back in 2014 because I knew there was a different way to do business. And so I've been on a profound dismantling journey over the last 6 years. And it's no joke to learn how to do business from your feminine. And when I say feminine, I don't mean at the exclusion of the masculine. It's more like us women learning how to use our natural design rather than operating out of our societal conditioning, which is, generally heavily based on masculine values. So all that to say, this is a journey, and even I was feeling a little feisty lately. If I may do a little aside for a second, there's a lot more women out there talking about doing business from your feminine, which is awesome. I'm thrilled to see that. And I just want to feistily say that if anyone's pretending like they have it all figured out of how to do business from their feminine, do not believe them, because there is no one woman who has this figured out yet. This is like no joke. And if they're saying they have it all figured out, then it's probably like, it's kind of like traditional business with with some lipstick on. Like, it's probably not all that different. So I just got to be a little feisty to say that. So I've been on this journey for 6 years. So anyway, that's my little aside of my unenlightened egoic moment, but we all have them. Anyway, so here's the story. I wanted to create this video series, and I create videos all the time and have for years. So I thought it would be somewhat easy, but it wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming. And then finally I was working on the project, and I talked to a friend, and she was like, well, why don't you ask your body? And she brilliantly asked me to do what I do with my own clients. And so she asked me to get down into pussy and see what she wanted. And the second I did, pussy said, go deeper. I thought, okay, great. And I didn't really feel ready to start the videos, and normally I wouldn't have, but because my friend kind of said, was supporting me in that moment, I'm like, okay, great. I'm just gonna go out into the world and I'm gonna start the videos and we'll see what happens. So I'm on the Big Island right now. I'm a digital nomad. I came in February for a couple of months to the Big Island, and I've been here all during pandemic, which of course is a great place to hang out during this time. And I thought it would be great as part of this video series, which we're calling Femflix, by the way. I want it to feel like an initiation, of like secrets for women leaders around the Dark Feminine. So I thought I would go to different places on the Big Island. So first up, I was gonna go to the hot lava field because it's just so dramatic and beautiful, like black rock as far as the eye can see. So I thought, okay, I don't really have it all figured out what I'm gonna create, but I'm gonna just head out and start the videos. So it was a comical day. You know, you got to get all the hair and makeup done. I'm heading out into the world. I used to be a photographer, so I'm a little bit picky about the lighting and the setup, and I had to make sure I was out of the wind. And, you know, so I'm in this gorgeous lava field, but it's windy and it's hot. And so I find this hole like in the lava field, and I get down in it, and I'm like sitting on this rock, and I found gorgeous light, and I found a gorgeous location, which is awesome. But I'm like trying to channel what wants to come through, because this is how I do my videos best. And it's not really coming. Like, it's trying to come. The sun is beating down. I'm hot. I'm getting frustrated. I don't have enough water. And I'm sitting on like sharp lava rock, you know, that is 100 million degrees out in the sun. And so it was just this comical moment of like, I knew it wasn't quite flowing. And then my ass was burning off. And so there were moments where I was just losing it on camera. Unhinged, like losing it. I was trying to find my way, so I was doing funny voices, and I was getting into my primal self, and I was roaring, because these are all ways that I've learned how to open up my creativity. But it still wasn't happening, and then my ass was on fire. I finally like got a bag that I could sit on, but it wasn't helping, and so I ended up not getting it that day at all. Like, I didn't get anything. And so it was this interesting journey of like, I just wanted to share that story of, you know, what happens when we're trying to do business differently. And it's not always a pretty sight. And it was all perfect. Like, I knew I needed to try that day because I needed to see what wasn't working. And then lo and behold, I talked with a friend who's brilliant, and she said, well, why don't you try storyboarding the videos? And it was like, I've never thought of that. I don't even know how to storyboard. So I started like watching YouTube videos, and so it's just been this interesting journey. But then in that process, all of a sudden, like what had happened with that particular video is very linear. It was like the old way that I've done videos for, 10 years. And I knew that wasn't it, but I couldn't quite figure out how to get to what I wanted it to feel like. And so somehow in attempting to storyboard and watching all these YouTube videos, it helped me to find a new way. So I am happy to announce that the videos have all been filmed, finally. I'm now in the process of editing them, so hopefully they'll be coming out into the world soon. But I wanted to share all that with you because this is what happens, when you're really ready to unplug from what I call the patriarchal operating system, which is the prevailing societal conditioning that we've all kind of had automatically installed into our hard drive and didn't have a say in the matter. And it's not our natural design as women. So when we try and do business that way, it's like the wrong fuel. It's like trying to put diesel in a gasoline car. Like, it doesn't go well. And it's a bit of a process to learn how to do it a new way, because you got to break free and break the spell out of your conditioning. So it's a whole journey. So I wanted to just share like this funny story of, I wish that this launch was already done. Like, I wish that I was already in the program, and I'm not. And this is part of the journey of allowing myself to go unhinged from the old way into the new way. So I wanted to just give that update of like, it's coming. I promise you, I've been working on this for months, and it's taken its sweet old time. So here are 3 things that I have learned of how to do business from your feminine operating system. Would you like to hear that? Take another sip of my kombucha before I dive in. And do let me know if there's any questions too. Okay, I'm gonna look at my notes. So first up, the way that we women need to do business that is differently from the way we've been taught, number 1, is no push. I call it the patriarchal push, is what we've all been taught to do, to like make things happen and hustle and grind and like, just sort of force it to become. That is not how we are designed as women. We are meant to look for flow, and we're meant to allow, and we're meant to receive and magnetize. There's like a whole different way of operating as women in business. But the first step is you have to let go of the push. And this is hard because, we get a lot of accolades for pushing and like working hard and making things happen. But what you're really only going to get at the end of the day is adrenal fatigue and being drained and burnt out. It's just not the way we're designed. So we have to learn how to let go of the push and learn how to follow flow. Now what happens is, if there isn't flow there, often what we might do is sort of, I need to work harder. No, if there isn't flow, you stop and then you look for where the flow is. And that's what I'm sort of learning how to do. And also, if there's no flow, sometimes that means waiting and like finding your own natural rhythm and allowing something to unfold. I took a class recently with Gay and Katie Hendricks called Creativity Camp that I loved. And they talked about essence pace. And it's basically like how our essence moves in its own time. And that's going to be a different rhythm for each person. So I'm learning how to not push and how to be in my own essence pace. And, you know, even though I wish this was done, I wish it had moved faster, it's not, like I'm not in control here. Like I'm very much about surrendering and involving the divine in my business. And so the divine is in control. And maybe there's a perfection in why this is taking longer than I would like. All I know is that like I can't push and I want to work in alignment with my natural design rather than pushing. So that's number one. Number two is the right brain. You know, we live in a culture that reveres the left brain. Logical, linear, you know, kind of grounded, things like that. But we women are more closely tied to our right brain, which is very much about creativity and nonlinear. You know, you could think of it like left brain is very much horizontal, straight line, kind of like this, logical and linear. Whereas right brain is vertically on the spiral. And this is where creativity comes in. And so I found that I need to get out of my left brain if I want to do business from my feminine operating system and think more from my right brain and go vertical and be more creative and give myself permission to do it differently than the way I've been taught. This shows up so often when I'm working with my private clients. Like they're struggling in their business, but really the only reason they're struggling is because they're trying to do it the way they've been taught, and that's not their natural way, and that's where the struggle is. They're pushing, right? But instead they let go of the push. I help to give them permission to do it in their own way, even if it looks differently. Like I'm taking my sweet old time with this launch, and this is not what I would ever be taught from, you know, any fancy pants business coach, but this is my way, right? So I'm learning how to allow my creativity, you know, making this video series that's different from anything I've seen out there, right? And wanting it to have like a activation and initiation in it and not just like boring old content. Well, that takes me using way more of my right brain than I've been taught to in business. So definitely need to use your right brain in your feminine operating system. And then number three is the body, right? Like traditional business doesn't involve the body at all. It's very much in the head from the neck up, and that's how we've been taught. But for women, our power lives down in our bodies. And so we need to spend time being in the body if we want to create business in a sustainable way. So what does that look like? Well, it means like, you know, making sure that you take time to be in your body, like a dance break, right? It means listening to the wisdom in your body, like the story I told you earlier about connecting with Pussy and asking her questions about business. I'll tell you, you know, when I work with clients these days, I won't even business coach them anymore. I could. I was paid thousands of dollars an hour to do that in the past. And now I connect them to the wisdom in their own body, namely Pussy and womb. And we get the most incredible business wisdom. Like I call Pussy the best business coach on the planet. So it's important for us as women to not leave our bodies out of the equation. You know, even when I was trying to film that series, that video out in the lava rock, I was roaring, I was getting into my hips, I made funny voices, I was trying to like do improv and just sort of loosen up and get some, you know, allow something to come through, which didn't totally work out in the end, although the clips of me doing character voices coming completely unhinged out in the lava field are very funny, and someday maybe I'll release them. We'll see. Okay, so did I get to all three already? I think I did. All right, so those are my 3 tips of like how to get into your feminine operating system in business. Is like no push, you look for flow. We use the right brain instead of the left brain, and you get into the body and you don't leave that out of the equation. Now, there's a 4th one that kind of fits into all of them, but I will say it's, you know, about the divine. You know, like as humans, as human women, we feel like everything's on our shoulders and we've got to do it all by ourselves. But that's not actually the case. we've been taught to do it that way, and so we're hardwired to do it that way, but we can learn how to change that story and to let go of those burdens and carrying it all on our shoulders and lean back into receiving more help from the divine. But I'll tell you, it's scary. It takes like being vulnerable, and it takes letting go of, the familiar, and it takes trusting. Like, trust in the divine is tricky too. So this is something I'm in the process of doing with this launch. Like, if a client asked me this very similar question, and I could answer from experience, because she was like, everything's taking me longer than I would like, and am I doing something wrong? And I said, no, because that's what I'm feeling that too. Like, oh my God, this is taking me so long. I told people we were going to start the program in September. It's not going to start till October. Like, none of it even really matters. But this is, we've been taught to believe that there's something wrong with that. And so what I said to my client is, no. When you're birthing something and it's taking longer than you would like, you just want to make sure you're still tending to it. They haven't dropped the ball. And then you want to be on the lookout to make sure you're not in resistance, or what I call a power leak, creating drama or distraction unconsciously to take you away from it. So if you're tending to it, and if you're doing the work, like just tending to it to come through, then you're not doing anything wrong, and there must be a perfection to the way that the whole rhythm is unfolding. As another example, I originally started talking about the dark feminine last July, talking about launching a program that took me until January to start truly launching. And I mean, the longest launch time in the history of business probably. But I was listening, and I was listening, and I was listening, and that's just the time that it took. And then by the time I launched, it was perfect. And here I was back in January saying to everyone, listen, the dark feminine is the future of leadership. Like, this conversation is going to be on everyone's lips coming soon. I don't know why. I just know this is what's up in the collective right now, and this is what's coming. So you can either listen to me now and get on board and, be in the forefront of leadership, or you can get this message later. And then lo and behold, 2 months later, pandemic, like where everything is falling apart, which is totally the realm of the dark feminine. And so this is like, that was the perfection and the timing. Like, I was ready, the world was ready. I launched it in January. It had 20 amazing women in the program, and it was awesome. So here we are now, world's gotten even more intense, and it's time for more women to learn how to work with the dark feminine. So thank you for coming on this storytelling journey with me today, behind the scenes. If you haven't taken the quiz yet, that's a great place to start to learn about the dark feminine, and you can find that at darkfeminine.com and find out which dark feminine badass are you in business. It was important to me to make a quiz that was not just some surfacey, fluffy thing, but had some depth to it, and I've heard great feedback about it, so that's awesome. And then stay tuned, because this video series is going to come out hopefully within the next few weeks. Let's see. I'm listening to my timing and following my feminine operating system. So let's see how it unfolds. But if you're interested, definitely stay close. And I'd love to share it with you when it's time. All right. If anyone has questions, let me know. And I'm sending you lots of aloha from Hawaii. And I actually just want to take a moment to think of all my brothers and sisters who are in the fire-torn parts of the country at the moment. Having lived in California for close to 20 years, definitely feeling all of you and feeling all the feelings over here. And I'm sending you lots of love and aloha from the Big Island. Okay, take care.